Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday to you. It's Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz here with a look at the impending weather that we have coming in terms of our storm potential Friday evening into Friday night, and the wind maker of a storm system that's on its way as we get into the weekend, especially late Friday night into Saturday. So a lot of this we talked about last night. If you missed the broadcast last night, that's okay. We've got another bonus broadcast for our sponsors and for you guys tonight. I'd like to cover it. And so the whole point of this, obviously, is not to make a huge deal out of the weather, right? We have been handed everything over the last 10 years here in Northwest Indiana, from tornadoes to blizzards, all that stuff. And, in its due time, all that stuff is obviously a mess when you have to deal with it. It doesn't mean this is going to be the apocalypse, all right? And I'm seeing a lot more of that online now, but it does stand a chance to be a big event. Not necessarily for us. We will talk about the impacts here. I do think we'll get perhaps some damaging winds out of this, which is nothing to slack about. But this is going to be a bigger event for areas to our south and the west, and then down in the deep south on Saturday. All right. So nationally, yes, this is a big deal. But for us here locally, I don't think we need to hit the panic button quite yet. So the whole point of this broadcast is to let you know exactly what we've got going on. You have Friday evening plans to make, and I want you to know what's going to happen weather-wise. And that's my main point, is that you're prepared for what's coming in. Doesn't mean it's off the charts crazy. Doesn't mean we're going to have severe weather here locally, but we'll take you through it. I'll give you my forecast, and that way you can make your plans with a little bit of knowledge behind you, okay? All right, so that's the whole idea. Hope you guys are doing well here this evening. Let me quickly get through our sponsors. This is a bonus broadcast for them. FBIbuildings.com, the place to go if you need any pole barns constructed, commercial, residential, or renovated. Meals on Wheels of Northwest Indiana, great organization. If you or someone you know is in need of some warm meals Monday through Friday, they certainly have that. Head to their website, mownwi.com. There are no financial restrictions and no age restrictions with that. So just so you know, if you know someone in need, or if that's you, certainly reach out to them. PSA, that's publicserviceadjusting.com. If you have an insurance claim, don't go to your insurance company first. Go to Public Service Adjusting. They're all local to Northwest Indiana, licensed insured adjusters. They will come out, take pictures right away. They'll submit everything to your insurance company, and they'll do the back and forth with your insurance company and get the top dollar for you. They are stubborn, and they're great. They work on behalf of you, and everyone wins. They have 5-star reviews across the board. PublicServiceAdjusting.com. TigerPlumbing.net, that's our local plumber. They come out for free. You can schedule on your mobile. If you want a new faucet installed, there you go. If you need new outdoor spigots installed because they're leaking or we're getting ready to water things, they do that too. TigerPlumbing.net, the place to go. Minogue.life. Michael Minogue has been doing the world and studying the world of Medicare, Medicaid, and life insurance for decades, and he knows his stuff. You may not know your stuff if you signed up online or over phone for new Medicare plans. He would love to sit down with you for free and go over your plan. You might have benefits you don't know about. You might be paying too much for life insurance. He can save you some money. Free consultation with Minogue.life is the place to go. Kate Cusack is our region realtor. She knows that the home buying market has taken off right now. Rates have come down. Mortgage rates, mortgage applications are up, I believe 11% in the last month or so, or year over year. Either way, they're up. It's going crazy because it's spring, and you need to be ready to go for your dream house, or maybe your first home. She'd love to help you do that, to get pre-approved and get all ready so that you can make an offer right away versus some of these other folks who miss out on it. Kate Cusack, Home Loan Girl on Facebook. Finally, Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. They've been serving Northwest Indiana for decades as well. Family-owned business. Brand new Jeeps ready to go. Don't need the four-wheel drive anymore, but you could use the roof and the doors that come off, right? That'd be pretty nice, especially tomorrow. Grieger's in Valparaiso on US 30. All right, let's dive into our early birds here, and then we'll get into the content. Ethan's with us tonight. Hi, Ethan. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel, as always. Derek, doing great, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Should get some picturesque views. Well, it's going to be late, but maybe some lightning views from O'Hare for you tomorrow night. Jeff, good evening to you. Mark's with us this evening. Hi, Mark. Mary's with us. Danielle. Maxwell says, looks interesting tomorrow. Absolutely. Justin's with us tonight. Laura, hello to you. Gail. Joey's back with us tonight. John's with us. Elaine, thanks for joining us tonight. Certainly appreciate it. Elaine brings up the point. Her flowers are pushing through the ground. Spring is here. Lynn, you're absolutely welcome. My wife and I, just before this broadcast, were out going around the yard. And it's interesting to see what's popping up. It's amazing that all that stuff knows. It just knows when to come up. And it's like, are you sure it's not going to snow again? You're going to be okay. but it's fascinating. We did a lot of planting last year of perennials and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see what survived the winter and where I put everything. You kind of forget in the winter months, but yeah, it's just exciting. There's good energy about this warm air, and you guys should certainly have some good energy about tomorrow's forecast because it does look good. All right, couple more hellos. Debbie's with us as we let a couple more people join. Deshaun, thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. Always appreciate you. Jill S. is with us on YouTube. Elizabeth is as well. And Elizabeth has her son, Anthony, who says hello. Anthony, hi, buddy. Hope you're doing okay. It's going to be really nice tomorrow, so good weather to get out and play. We've got, if you guys don't know, we've got 4 of our own kiddos here at home, and they're just excited to get out and play if they can stay healthy. Kathy says today is gorgeous, and Lynn says good evening. Good evening to you, Lynn. All right, let's dive in. I think everyone's here. We always like to, I know you guys are doing dinner, stuff like that, so we always like to let some people join. I'm not stalling, but I like to make sure we get this content to everyone. All right, yes, Iron Jim, it is too early to be scared. Yes, I'm not, listen, this is not going to be the panic button by any means, but we do have to be prepared tomorrow night to see what's coming, okay? So here's what we have right now. As you look out west, look at this trough digging in out west. This is our big system, area of low pressure. Notice that tremendous lift as the system went through LA this morning. I was doing the morning news bright and early this morning, and we were tracking thunderstorms through LA and San Diego. Kind of interesting, right? Well, that feeder band of moisture coming off the Pacific is now in areas of Arizona. They're getting heavy mountain snow, and they're getting a lot of heavy rain in Arizona. This will head into New Mexico and Colorado. The Rockies, if you have a ski trip planned over the next month or so, they've got a lot of fresh powder right now. I mean, the next week or so looks best. But this is a good late season system for them. Typically, the jet stream starts to push a little bit further to the north. I mean, this can happen, but typically it pushes a little further north. So we're starting to say goodbye to rainy season in Southern California and the Rockies. And that is not the case, as the system is producing a lot of precip out there. However, areas like Denver, their snowiest month, I believe, is March. I remember that from just last couple of years learning that. They get a lot of heavy snow in Denver in March. Anyway, this system comes east, and it forms on the lee side of the Rockies. We're going to have a deep low pressure system. And combined with that low, there's going to be a tremendous amount of jet energy with this. And that's really the thing that's going to really ramp up this storm system is there's a jet streak coming in. I should actually show it to you. I don't have it, but we'll pull it up here. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's the system on satellite. We had just a beautiful day today. It was cooler near the lakeshore within like a mile and a half. Otherwise, we had warming. A few thunderstorms. Kind of neat to see that down towards Tennessee. Gatlinburg getting some rain right now. A little area of energy here down towards Texas with just some high cirrus clouds. And this is by far the big show out west. So the Storm Prediction Center does their risk. This is the map that you see on all of the, I don't know what to call them, but all the kids that do weather online, which is great. But this is the one that they turn into like dark purple with like skulls all over it and make it look crazy. All right. This basically, again, I hate the lines on this. I never like borders. You have to do it though if you're going to make a map. But people get so focused on where the lines are and they say, oh, well, we're not in the orange, we're just in the yellow. Mother Nature doesn't care about lines, okay? This is humans' best ability to fine-tune where the bullseye would be in terms of severe weather, all right? Basically, anything in dark green or yellow, you still have a threat for severe weather. And it just takes one storm, to produce wind damage on your property. And then you're like, well, we were only in yellow. And it's not guaranteed severe weather in the red, although it's pretty close. But you see the idea here where the bullseye is going to be in Illinois and eastern areas of Missouri. This is what we talked about last night with those thunderstorms exploding tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening and becoming mature as they cross that Missouri-Illinois border. And then we have mature storms that are able to tap into the wind shear and tap into the jet stream. And we are expecting some tornadoes out of this in Illinois, all right? And it could be a lot of tornadoes. It could be a few tornadoes. But the biggest threat still with all this in my mind is wind damage. There's so much wind energy with this storm system that wind damage with any thunderstorm is going to be pretty easy to come by, all right? And what we'll be watching is a line of storms, and I'll show you here in a second, a line of storms that will be moving north and east towards us here in northwest Indiana. And that line of storms would start to be in the weakening phase as it heads into a less favorable environment over northwest Indiana. Problem is, these things are going to be moving real fast, and I don't know if they're going to have time to weaken by the time they get here. They'll be in the process, but still, they're going to be on the strong side as they move in, as it looks right now. So here's the radar presentation. All right, we'll take you through this. This is 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we are now into the evening hours, late afternoon, evening. Low pressure punches out. Dry line comes in, meets up with warmth and some humidity. There's good moisture transport with this jet. And boom, we'll get explosive thunderstorms in a line, likely a line segment that develops from Iowa down towards Missouri. All right. These are the storms when they develop that would likely have wind damage with it. Tornadoes would probably take a half hour to hour after these storms get going to develop. These storms need to get rooted, they need to mature, and they will do that. I would say probably half hour to hour after they initiate. The first things you'll see are severe thunderstorm warnings, and then we'll probably start to see tornado warnings with these from Iowa down towards Missouri, I would say within a half hour or an hour after they develop, okay? So now we're into the evening hours, and we're sitting here enjoying an upper 70-degree day. Temps will still be in the 70s tomorrow evening. You are fine to make Friday evening plans. Friday afternoon, dinner on the town, out and about, looks great. It really does. However, the later you stay out, that's when we're going to start to track these storms in, and they're going to be moving in pretty quickly. But it's going to be just a summer-like day tomorrow. And tomorrow evening, it's Friday, right? Tomorrow evening is going to feel like summer. So please make plans to get out and enjoy, because it's going to be one of those kind of evenings. But as you're out and about, if you're a weather junkie, which a lot of us are here that join us on our YouTube channel here and on our Facebook page, if you're a weather junkie, you're probably going to be tracking some of these storms on your radar while you're talking to your spouse or whoever it is, or your kids, and that's okay. But what you're going to see on radar is this line of storms, and there are probably going to be multiple tornado warnings within this off towards our south and west. And oftentimes that will cause folks in Northwest Indiana to panic, because it's like, oh my goodness, there are like 5 tornado warnings in Illinois, and these storms are coming our way. Like, we're going to get tornadoes tonight. That doesn't mean that, all right? The favorable setup, you saw it where that bullseye is over Missouri and Illinois. That is where the shear is the highest. That's where the timing is just perfect in terms of when these storms develop, when they have the highest CAPE or available energy. And these storms are going to be the strongest in that area, all right? As they move towards Northwest Indiana, the sun will have set, all right? We're expecting these things. Earlier today, I was looking at after midnight. It's going to be a close call right now. The models have kind of sped it up a little bit. So I would start to be on alert probably at like 11 o'clock p.m., but then I'm still expecting them early morning hours, like midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there, depending on how they develop and how fast they move. So it's not going to be an evening thing, all right? But late evening, that's when we start to mess with these things and flirt with some of these storms moving in. But you see, as it moves in, nasty storms through Illinois, all right? This is up to 11 o'clock. And notice, and I agree with this, with the amount of energy, this is kind of newer on the modeling, at least the HRRR, and I like it, where you get this main line of storms, and then it starts to become slightly outflow driven, and that triggers more pop-up storms well out and ahead of the line, all right? And that, if this happens, this would be a sign of weakening, which is good. Doesn't mean we won't have a potent storm, but what we often see when a line of storms or a QLCS becomes more outflow driven, you'll get kind of pops out ahead of it as that colder air from the rain that's falling in that line rushes out and then develops new pop-up thunderstorms out ahead of that. So if this happens, this isn't a bad thing, okay? But we could start to see some pop-up downpours with some lightning out in advance of the line. This would still be the main show right here, all right? But we could get some rain earlier, and that's kind of the change in the modeling. So the HRRR brings through that kind of prefrontal, it's not really a front, but I'll call it prefrontal line of some pop-ups through here, 11 o'clock, 11:30 into midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. And then this main line, notice how, because we have this initial line that's kind of developed, it's taken just a little bit out of the atmosphere. Plus, this thing's getting away from where it was strongest, right? It's heading into that less favorable environment for severe weather. And so if this happens and we get this initial line of downpours around here, we'd have gusty winds with them, but I don't see a big severe threat with that. This secondary line would probably still have some wind energy with it. So as that moves through, this is 2, 3 o'clock in the morning now, as this thing moves through, we would still have the potential for some brief damaging winds with it, but this wouldn't be the compact tornado-producing 90-mile-per-hour potential wind-producing line that is back in Illinois. All right, it would be much different look when it gets to us. Potential would still be there for strong winds and damaging winds at that, But I like the way the HRRR develops that initial line as it's starting to weaken, and it kind of brings everything through. All right. So again, this is tomorrow night into the early morning hours on Saturday. We're expecting this to pass. And this is not truth. Again, yesterday's model run looked slightly different than this. Tomorrow morning's model runs are going to look slightly different than this. They're even going to look a little different later tonight. But I like this trend, and I show this to you first because I agree with this one the most. And that's our job as meteorologists, is to comb through all the models and show you what we like the most based on forecast experience. All right. And that's what I like the most in terms of that setup with that line moving through. And then as you're making Saturday plans, which I'm sure a lot of you are, that line heads east. We would still be on the warm side of this. And this right here is essentially the dry slot of this system. So when you have a powerful low that's wrapping up, it drags dry air in it. And I mean, if you could just picture it, like if you were to, I'm trying to think of how to explain this. If I were, draining the bathtub and I had that swirl that started, right? If I were to put, and this is so random, but I hope this helps explain it. If I were to put a dropper of like food coloring in there, like off to the side, you'd see it kind of wrap into that before it circulated. That's what the dry air does with big low pressure systems. You get this area, I'll go back here and show you, right in here. This is all dry air from the Rocky Mountains because they'll be dry at this time and there'll be dry air, like low dew points. That's dry air that kind of gets wrapped into this. And so that's a good place to be in these big lows. You get the initial rain by you, and then you get this chunk of dry air that comes in. So you're still on the warm side of the system. The cold front hasn't come yet, and you're dry. You're not getting soaked, right? You don't have thunderstorms. So that's where we're going to spend a lot of our Saturday, and it's still going to be a pretty warm wind on Saturday. So I do think much of Saturday's dry. This was going to be Saturday midday and in the afternoon is where the thunderstorms with a new low will develop down towards the Gulf Coast. That's going to be a tornado threat for them, a big one, severe weather threat. And all that rain from those thunderstorms will start to slide north along this frontal boundary that's still in place. So we do run the risk of some more rain moving in here on the backside of all this thunderstorm activity later in the day Saturday. So Saturday, if you're making plans, morning looks pretty good. Midday looks pretty good. Afternoon, we'll start to watch some rain come into the Ohio Valley. We may get clipped by some of that later in the day Saturday, so it looks better earlier. The problem with Saturday is we are going to have a howling wind. You saw that there's high wind watches that have been issued, wind advisories for tomorrow, and let me show you that. Let me just show you the wind while I have you on this subject here. Here's your wind tomorrow, and again, these are gusts. So notice how those gusts come in. These are mainly with the line of thunderstorms. But it's going to be windy out there as you're, enjoying dinner out in the town Friday evening. It is going to be pretty windy. We'll have gusts 20 to 40. And then when that line goes through, that's where the potential is for some stronger gusts. But then on into Saturday, that wind is really going to howl as this low pressure gets going. 40 to 50 mile per hour winds on the back side of this. And I've got 40 to 50 mile per hour winds on the front side of this during the day on Saturday. Some of that dry air may aid in that as well. So real windy around here Saturday, and it'll be gusty as well, where you get a burst of wind. And again, that's not with thunderstorms. That's just the way it's going to go on Saturday without the thunderstorms. A couple other things I want to show you here. Here's your temperatures tomorrow. I've got upper 70s near 80. I would not be surprised if we had an 80 or two in northwest Indiana. It's going to be windy. I mean, and that wind is coming right from the Gulf of Mexico. And this air mass has been warming over the last couple of days. So there's a real good potential tomorrow to at least reach upper 70s to near 80 degrees. And then notice tomorrow night, this is when you're out and about, right about here. We're still in the upper 60s, near 70. It's going to feel like summer. The wind is howling. And then on Saturday, it's still going to be mild. I mean, we're still going to be 60s and with a mild wind still out of the southwest. So that wind is going to be real gusty, but it's going to be a warm wind on Saturday. And then the cold air comes in briefly on Sunday, but it won't last long. It really won't last long. We go right back to warming next week. All right, so a couple other things I want to show you here. We talked about this last night, the significant tornado parameter. And again, I hesitate as a meteorologist. We have to be careful because a lot of us will show the same model over and over. And remember, this model is not truth. So if something's wrong on the HRRR, then that means the whole forecast is off. So I'll show you why I like the HRRR, though, here in a second. But the significant tornado parameter, this shows where tornado potential is highest, right? Where the atmosphere is most conducive to producing that spin, which produces tornadoes. And so there you go. I mean, look at this lighting up like a Christmas tree Friday night. There's a potential in southwestern Illinois Watch as it comes in here. It's not zero, right? We still have a potential. It's not off the charts like it is down south with the amount of shear, but our shear is really high and it won't take much. The thing that we're lacking is super high CAPE, which is energy for the atmosphere to produce robust cloud tops and big thunderstorms. We have some, and we have enough to produce severe weather with that. But again, the timing of the day when this thing's moving in around midnight or later, that kind of prevents, that potential for those big, robust thunderstorms as if this thing were heading in the afternoon. Okay, so there's your significant tornado parameter. And look at that, how it comes up through the state. But that's going to be, I don't want to disregard this as we go into Saturday. We'll have to watch that potential for that. That's mainly based on shear. But in terms of kind of this development with this high significant tornado parameter coming up, we're going to lack thunderstorms during that time as they're redeveloping down to the south. But it's there, something to keep an eye on throughout the day Saturday, as that shear still is off the charts. But again, I'm not anticipating storms here locally on Saturday. All right, we may have some leftover rain off of storms to our south and the east. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with there. I do want to show you real quick here. I'll show you the NAM nest, and then we'll answer your questions. Hopefully, I feel like I covered everything. If there's something you guys want to know, though, go ahead and throw it in chat. We'd be happy to answer that for you in terms of timing. A lot of people like to ask, what about my town? This is equal for everyone in Northwest Indiana. It's the same time for everyone, where we're expecting this line to move in late tomorrow evening, and then especially in early morning hours. So anytime after 11:30 p.m. is kind of what I have right now. Anytime between 11:30 and 3 a.m. is when we're expecting this line to move through. This is the NAM nest. I don't like the NAM nest because it doesn't have the temperatures and the dew points right. All right, so I'm going to disregard that. The NAM is very similar. It's much lower on the temperatures. It's okay on the dew point, but not great in terms of my mind. So, if it's off on those two things initially, then why would it get the storms right and how strong they are? That's just kind of my meteorological take on it. But you can see this nasty line that develops. This would have wind damage all along it, right? Same idea. And notice how the core of that wind damage, the core of that bow goes up through Chicago and southern Wisconsin on the NAM. It doesn't mean it's right. And then you can see how we just have general thunderstorms that come through. I don't know if you could tell that as not a meteorology folks, but if you kind of look at it, it doesn't have the same look. So those would just be thunderstorms with the potential for some strong winds within them as they move through. And then you can see as we go into the daytime Saturday, notice how all these storms that fire south and west of us or south and east of us do clip us with some rain. At least that potential's there. But I do not see a severe weather threat here locally on Saturday. That would be further off towards the east and especially down in the southeast. Can I show you southeast real quick? Because this is not good news for them. Let's look at this line that develops. So here's where the storms develop Friday, and then this new low pressure gets going, and it just rakes the southeast. Look at these storms. I mean, these all would have tornadoes. They'd all be supercells heading through Tennessee and Mississippi. Better look on the HRRR, which is a little bit more bullish in terms of severe weather, and it pops it a little further south. But you can see what they're going to be dealing with on Saturday. All right, so that's the rain. All these big storms down south will produce a rain shield off towards the north, and that's the rain we may get clipped by on Saturday. It doesn't look to be too big of a deal. Okay, so that's what we're looking at storm-wise. Let me just kind of let this run so you guys can see the evolution of our Friday-Saturday system. Again, a lot of wind energy with us. We'll have gusty winds outside of any storms Friday evening. We'll also have strong winds around here on Saturday, and it'll be on the warm side at least to start. It'll turn cooler late in the evening for that. Okay. All right. Let's answer your question. So let's see what we've got here. Deshaun brings up a good point, and I usually don't cover this and probably should. Deshaun, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of chatter on from the Weather Service about the fire danger tomorrow, and I assume that we're all smart. So I guess that's why I don't usually cover fire danger, like don't throw the cigarette out the window when it's dry and windy. But there is a really good elevated risk for fire danger tomorrow to spread, right? So bonfires tomorrow evening, forget about it. We're going to have low relative humidity during the day into the evening hours until this rain in the system moves in. There's a little window of dew points that creep up. But during the day tomorrow, especially in the afternoon with the wind and the warmth and a relatively dry brush that we have around here, it's still in wintertime mode, right? It's on the dry side. The wind will dry it out too. Those things combined, fire can spread pretty quickly tomorrow. All right, not just here, but all over the Midwest, essentially. So no cigarettes out the window. Shouldn't be smoking anyway. No bonfires, no barrel burning of, all the sticks that fell. Just avoid the fires tomorrow. We can do it once we get more humidity around here and once we get a good soaking rain, and we start to bring some more moisture in the air. Okay, so there's that. Cade, yeah, Brown, that's a really good question. So Brown County, yes, we do have the chance for severe weather. So Brown County, south of the Indianapolis region, yes, you do have the threat of severe weather. It's the timing's a little bit later for you, as this initial batch is going to come through northwest Indiana. There'll probably be a hinge. Well, we can actually look at it. There's going to be this little area on the southern appendage of that'll move through. So I would say anytime after midnight for you. But yes, wind damage is certainly going to be the potential for UK down in Brown County. And the reason why is because you're going to be closer to the core of where those better conditions are in Missouri as it moves through. But again, I think your chances are pretty equal to us here in Northwest Indiana in terms of that. Yeah, so Kyle, that's a great question. Do the downpours add up to anything? Does it move through quick enough? We could use the rain. We really could, Kyle. So we're in a drought, or we've got abnormally dry conditions here across a good portion of the state. So we could use the rain, especially tomorrow. That wind dries us up, and so does sunshine and warmer temperatures. And so our ground should be able to handle all the rain that falls tomorrow. We are looking at over an inch possible where the thunderstorms kind of line up and where they produce the heaviest amounts of rain. So we can kind of look at what we're looking at here on the map wise. And you can see some of these streaks. I mean, thunderstorms do not produce rainfall equally, right? Your neighbor's going to get a different amount than you do. But some of these streaks that we have are going to be approaching an inch as we go on into tomorrow night. And then we're going to add more to it potentially, little amounts on Saturday, but that would certainly be good amounts. So you can see we've got some inch totals in here. Not for everyone, but the potential's there where those thunderstorms really crank some rain. All right. Yeah, same for Bloomington, Cade. Bloomington's going to be a little bit lesser of a threat, and we're going to have to watch that. Oh, you're asking about Saturday. I was going to say we're going to have to watch Bloomington more for Saturday evening. I have a hunch, Cade, based on just kind of what happens with these storm systems, all that activity down towards the south. Let me see if I can get a better sector view here. I don't think I can. This will show it to me. So I'm going to pause it here. Okay, this is tomorrow. This is what tends to happen in severe weather setups. When you have explosive thunderstorms down in the southeast, we rely on moisture flowing from the Gulf of Mexico through the air, through the atmosphere, on the jet stream and the low-level jet. We rely on that moisture to provide severe thunderstorms for us here locally. I think this action down towards the south is going to block a lot of that deep moisture that can produce severe weather here locally in Northwest Indiana or in Indiana in general. I think that will suppress a lot of that energy. So, if we didn't have this down to the south, we would see a line of severe thunderstorms develop in Indiana. All right. But all the storms will be down towards Mississippi. There'll be a big rain shield on the north end of that. So that will kind of prevent any big explosive thunderstorms over us, which would kind of negate the severe weather chance. We still have it tomorrow, but it's not as high, and I don't anticipate it being high because of these storms down south, right? It kind of blocks that moisture transport from the Gulf. We'll still get plenty of rain off of these, and we still have thunderstorm chances. Any of those thunderstorms that develop tomorrow afternoon and evening out towards the east, they certainly have a chance to be severe with the wind shear alone. But again, I don't anticipate a huge severe event tomorrow afternoon or evening because I think the south is going to steal the show with that. All right. But it is a strong storm system, so it certainly can overcome that versus a typical storm system that comes in. So we'll see that. Maxwell says storms might go elevated hitting Indiana tomorrow. That'd be good. Yeah, Maxwell, the elevated storm threat really is confined to warm fronts here locally. We may see that happen where they're not as rooted in the surface as they are in Illinois. But I still think they'll be rooted, down to the surface here. So, the potential's there for that, Maxwell, but I don't really see that happening. I do think that we'll have some wind damage reports, at least as these storms move through in spots. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. We'll just have to see how they develop. Pearl, I'm glad you caught it for sure. Mallory says, traveling to St. Louis, how rough is Friday going to be? Yeah, Mallory, St. Louis is right on the fringe of where these things develop and really get cranking. So here's St. Louis right here. Let's take a look at the HRRR. So you see how those storms crank right just to the west of St. Louis. And then, it just depends on what storm they get. There's going to be multiple embedded supercells here within this. There could be a scenario, Mallory, where here's St. Louis, and there's a supercell to the north that misses them, and one to the south that misses them, and they get clipped by a little bit of rain. But there's also a scenario where a supercell develops or a big thunderstorm develops and rolls right through downtown. So they're certainly in the threat zone. The threat is there for tornadoes and hail and damaging winds in St. Louis. And again, that is tomorrow evening still for them. All right. More so earlier in the evening, like 6 to 8 o'clock is what I'm looking at right now. So certainly going to be rough down in St. Louis. All right. Chances, Mean Streak asks, are the chances for snow over? They are not. That's the thing. We need to kind of pump the brakes on this, 80-degree possible day tomorrow and realize what time of year it is. We can still get snow this time of year. We typically don't get a lot from here on out. We're about 88 or 89% done with seasonal snow, which is good, but that 10% possibility is left. But we haven't had much snow this season. We really haven't. We had the cold. We just didn't have the moisture with no big snowstorms. We'd like to keep it that way. And I'll tell you, looking over the next 10 to 15 days, there are some hits of cold that come in, but those hits of cold are very brief and they don't contain any big snowstorms. We might have a few snowflakes here and there, but really most days in the next 10 to 15 are going to be on the mild spring-like side, either 50s, 60s, and even more 70s in the forecast. So a couple hits of cold here and there with some 40s, but I don't see anything. And that takes us through, March 25th-ish, somewhere around there, 26. And so the later we get in the season, the harder it is to produce snow. But we just can't rule it out. We really can't rule it out. Kate, you're welcome. I appreciate you joining us on our YouTube channel. I really do. Kyle, you're welcome as well. I appreciate you joining us. I like your picture of the Wienermobile. I got to tour that thing one time. It's not as glamorous as it looks. It's a little tight. There's that. Deshaun, that's interesting. So, Deshaun, there are meteorologists that remember all storms, and there are meteorologists that don't remember any storms. And I'm one of those. My brain doesn't work the way others do, where they remember storms. I have no idea what happened March 31st, 2023. Shame on me, but I'm just not that meteorologist. It's funny because it's two of us on our weather team are that way, where we don't remember. I don't even remember what happened last weekend. And then there's two that are, the other way, where they remember everything. So, Deshaun, I don't remember, in my mind, who cares? This is a new storm. This is a new storm to forecast. This is, I'm all about future thinking in terms of weather and forecasting and all that stuff, which there are other meteorologists that, can fill in the blanks for me where my strengths are not in terms of, this setup. I do like to look at, oh, yeah. Well, we had a couple of those. Yeah. I don't remember that one. I really don't. And I'm so sorry. We had the damage in Maryville. This one certainly could bring wind damage to Maryville. So yeah, in terms of, your question is, could it be in comparison to that? Yeah, it could. Our tornado setup isn't great here locally though. All right. It's more a damaging wind threat I'm concerned with, but we're going to need to keep an eye on these. And again, I will be tracking these with you guys tomorrow evening. So come on in, join us. We can chat and kind of guide you through it as we get in the late evening. So yeah, Debbie brings up a good point. I can remember snow on April 16th, several different years in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, for sure. The 70s produced a lot of snow. We had some good winters in the 70s. Early 80s produced some good ones as well. 83 is when things started to turn a little bit more mild. But there were mild stretches back in the 40s too. I know a lot of people obviously, saying, everything is warming. We know the earth is warming. There's the big debate on what's causing it, right? But we had, some warming periods back in the 40s, a lot of records back in those years as well. So, are we going through a trend? Are we doing this? Or, are we heading this way? We'll see. But yeah, that's that. Kathy, probably late tomorrow. I'm not going to waste your time in the evening, early evening. I'm not going to ruin your dinner. But what we'll probably do is do I think the best way to serve you guys would be to do an update sometime like evening, like not dinner time, but after that, just to let you know where these storms are and kind of how they're behaving. And then we can go through the models and see, how they line up with where the storms are versus where they're going. And I can get a timeline on there. If these things are going to move in, if they're slowing down and they're on the latter half where it's like 2, 3 a.m., I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to stay up. And the reason why is because that's usually when I wake up in the morning. And so Friday evenings, after a long week of doing the morning show, I'm typically going to bed early. Like I try to stay up and I can't because I'm just exhausted. So So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I will get you an update either way. If these things are going to roll through 11 p.m., then I'll guide you through it. We can do some live coverage tomorrow. But either way, you guys will be prepared tomorrow. Okay, I'll make sure that you know what's coming and what to expect for all that. No, Mark, looks good. It really does. The latter half of that, we'll keep an eye on the storms, but no, you should be good. It's going to be real windy. So, hang on to those. If you guys are doing a drive-through there, make sure you're hanging on to the styrofoam containers, or else fish are going to be flying all over the windshield. But yeah, oh, I just love fish fry season. This is the best. It really is. Yeah, so Deshaun, I remember that. I mean, I got the Groundhog Day blizzard. That's pretty much the only one I remember. That's funny. Yeah, Kathy, somewhere around there. Yeah, I'd say 8 o'clock would be good. That would be good. Amy, you're absolutely welcome. Yeah, I appreciate your support too, for sure. I appreciate you guys trusting me. Kathy, looking more north. Sorry, I missed the beginning. That's okay. No, nothing's looking more north on this. The big question, Kathy, tomorrow is if these hold together, and I do think they hold together. The second question you have to ask is how severe are they going to be when they get here? They're going to be pretty wild down to our south and the west, but they'll be weakening as they move in. But I don't want the word weakening to fool anyone, because they still could pack a punch with some strong winds. And so in terms of the timing, it's kind of sped up a little bit. And what we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast is this initial band, as they become more outflow dominant, they would pop some little downpours out in advance, and that would help to kind of mitigate a severe threat as well. So that's kind of showing up in the modeling. So we'll see. All right. Jill, I know. That's funny. Because I never asked to be on mornings. They asked me several times to say, can you, do you want to do mornings? I'm like, no, I am not a morning person. I've done evenings my whole career for 15 years. And so then they're like, well, we need you to try mornings. And so I did. And it's great. It's great to be home during the day with the kids. I've gotten, after a year and a month of doing this, I finally had the sleep down where I'm not a walking zombie during the day. Where I just was the whole first year. It was like, that heavy feeling when you guys don't get enough sleep. The morning folks have that all the time during the day. And you have to figure out when you're going to nap. And, we've got 4 kids, school helps for 2 of them. But anyway, not that you need to know this story, but maybe one day down the road, we'll switch back to evenings. We'll see. But evenings would certainly be able to help coverage on here. Where I could stay up late and track these storms. I feel so bad. Nothing makes me feel worse than when there's a line of storms coming in and I have to go to bed. But unfortunately, region weather does not pay the bills for me, right? My dedication has to go to the TV station, because that's where, our income comes from and all that. And so, that's kind of how it goes. I need to get my sleep, so I'm 100% for the TV side of things. But for sure, and I could see, and I've thought about down the road, I would love if region weather could be, this our not just our source of income, but a full-time job. But unfortunately, it's just, these aren't. The online stuff just isn't at this point, unless I had 400 million sponsors. But I don't want people to do that. All right. So that's just kind of where it goes. But Jill says she's not a morning person either. Yes, but I do miss the evenings for sure. I really do. And Amanda says, glad you're here. My new bees arrive in April. Awesome, Amanda. That's exciting. Oh, you'll have to keep us updated. I know last couple of years you've kept us updated on that, Amanda. That's super cool. Amanda sells honey, I believe. I believe you sell honey from it. I know you have bees, but do you sell the honey, Amanda? You don't even need to be a sponsor. You've been so faithful to us that we'd be happy to get that out there. But anyway, can't wait for your bee stories. Kathy, you are absolutely welcome, for sure. All right. I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have a wonderful evening. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Please enjoy the day tomorrow. My goodness, let's not overlook the fact we're talking upper 70s to near 80. It's going to become breezy tomorrow, but we'll have sunshine with high clouds. So enjoy the day tomorrow. My goodness, is it going to feel great? Plus, it's Friday, and then we'll get back into, obviously, the storms and some cooler air as we end the weekend. But enjoy tomorrow. Let's not forget that. Amanda says, I do sell honey when I have some. Awesome. All right. Well, if you need a avenue to sell some honey to folks, or if people are interested in local honey, and we'll take some too, Amanda. I will buy some off you. Okay. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a good night. Get some sleep and enjoy the summer day tomorrow. We'll talk again tomorrow evening.